Hey friends, welcome back to the show. In today's video, we're at a local church and we're going back to the basics. Most of you folks that are going to watch this video know exactly how to do what I'm going to show you and what we're working on. But a lot of you guys came on here to YouTube to see a video just like this. So let's go inside and let's take a look at today's lesson. All right, so if you've been watching my channel any time, you see me working on a lot of old stuff and specialize in a lot of old plumbing and everything. Well, I feel though this is just as important to once in a while go back to the basics. Even the easiest of plumbing, you can tend to forget certain little tricks and tips on how to make the job go smoother. You see behind me, I have a men's room and a ladies' room. And they just gave me a ticket to come over here and said there's something wrong with the toilets. So let's take a look in the women's room first and find out if that's a problem in there or if it's in the men's room. All right, first thing I'm seeing is it looked like the water is in the on position, quarter turn valve. Let's try to flush it. That toilet seemed to flush okay, so I'm ruling there being a toilet stoppage out of the question on at least this toilet for right now. We're giving it a step. Hear that? Okay, so it shut off. I could work on this toilet. We're going to open up that tank and just look to see what quality the parts look like. All right, well, besides those bolts looking like they have a little rust on them, everything seems to look fairly decent. That flapper looks like it's been replaced relatively new. Let's go ahead and flush it again. Now, one of the jobs of being a professional plumber is you always got to make sure when you're sent out to a job, even if it's just a toilet they're talking about, everything else in that bathroom looks copacetic, because you don't want to leave and there end up being a problem when they say, well, the plumber was just there and he didn't look at it. So the only other thing that's in this bathroom is a little lavatory. I'm going to turn it on, check underneath, make sure there's no leaks as well. All right, so as it's seeing, looks like the ladies' room looks to be in pretty decent order. Let's go over here to the gentleman's room. Same kind of setup, a lavatory and a toilet, but we have a urinal in here too. We'll check on that in a second. Let's see something. That's in the off position, so that's telling me this toilet was probably running. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna turn this valve on and let it fill up and see what kind of results we're working with. That flapper looks a little bit warped. I don't know if that's what's causing this thing to kick on and run by itself. Let's let it continue finishing its cycle to make a determination of exactly what it is that's going on with this toilet. Looks like this thing might be overflowing into the tube. It is. Yeah, see, this thing's not shutting off. You may ask me, what causes this to happen, Tim? Well, you get trash that gets up inside of these little fill valves and stuff, and they get caught up in these little diaphragms and all that stuff. And once that little divot on the top is supposed to close, it no longer can, because there's debris sitting in there that's creating a void, not allowing that float to kick off and to shut the water down. Anytime you're working on any type of toilet, anytime, take a moment and put on disposable gloves. Trust me. First thing we want to do is make sure to shut angle stop off completely and flush out as much of the water in the tank as possible. Lay down a towel on the floor and have yourself some sort of a catch bucket right underneath this, because we're going to be taking the supply line off. Now there's about almost a ½ inch of water still in the tank. That's why we have that catch bucket. So what we're going to do is take this little nut off right here, lift that out and let the water dump out into a little catch basin. Now that that valve is gone and it's not attached anymore, I just set it down to the toilet. Make sure there's no debris that's set up around here, so when you put your new fill valve in, there's not going to be anything creating a void and a possible leak. Let's go ahead and get the new fill valve out of the box. Today we're working with one of my favorite brands, Wolverine Brass, the Finale Pro Series fill valve. If you take a look up in your right hand corner right now, you can see that video card, and that'll show you how to put these in the proper way, the specifications, and how you can raise the water or lower the water, as well as clean the filter. Let's get out of the box and install it. Time to reinstall the water supply line. Careful, don't cross thread these. Usually you should only have to hand tighten them, snug them up real good. The hose that comes with it, and it has a little clip and stuff. So anytime I use these types of fill valves and I see this little guy in here on top of the flush valve, I go ahead and just take it off, because now it's not necessary because I have a clip on the end of my other hose. Let's attach that clip in the hose onto the fill valve and stand tube. Now remember, you never want to stuff these tubes way down in there. It'll cause a siphoning effect. And always make sure when you put these clips on, the water is going into the tube, not into the tank. All right, the tank gets filled from the valve itself out of the bottom. This water that goes into your standpipe puts water into your bowl. Make sure that water fills through this. All right, so we want this water to fill up without overflowing in the tube. And there she is. Even though it's above the marked water line, we want as much water in this tank, for the fact being this is an old church and it has cast iron drain pipes underneath here. So we want to have a nice, good, clean flush. All right, so at this time, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut the water back off. We did half of the replacement, or a third of the replacement of the parts in the side of this tank. We're gonna pull that flapper out. Whether it needs it or not, we're gonna take a look at it. It's always good practice when you're replacing a fill valve to replace the flapper as well. Pull these couple dog ears off in here, as well as our clip that's here. Now this is gonna be difficult for me to do one-handed. Let me see if I can get this thing off of here. I'll get right back, but we gotta get this chain off of here. All right, have a look at this. This is one of the reasons why I say it's usually the best bet every time you go into work inside the tank of the toilet to replace the flapper. Look at how warped that thing is. See edges? Not only was that fill valve not shutting off, it was losing water constantly out of the tank, which is causing that fill valve to kick on prematurely all the time, and they were losing a lot of water. So it's a good fit. Now we're gonna put a new flapper in. Remember, we're doing this one-handed, so please just have a little patience with me. I appreciate it. There we go with the dog ears. Now we bring the chain back up. Let me show you the trick to setting this at the proper height. All right, we got our little clip right here. We're going to take it, we're going to pull it down to about a half a dozen little links. All right, I clip it. Sorry, my hand's in the way. I'm doing the best I can here. Kind of like that. So we got a little bit of deal going on here. That's pretty much optimal right there. It's not super tight, but it's enough when I push the lever, it engages that flapper where we want to. Another thing to keep in mind when you're changing a flapper, some of these flappers will end up getting deteriorated. Before you take and put the new flapper on there, the little ring area down there that the flapper seals on, make sure to clear any kind of debris, like maybe some old pieces of the rubber from that flapper that might have stuck on there. Because if not, and you don't clean that little rim up perfectly fine, that flapper will never close. It'll create a void with that debris and it'll cause it to run, making that fill valve to kick on and run and run and run. This area around here, make sure it is cleaned of all and any debris. And remember, when you're finished with the job, always come back down here by angle stop in your water supply line and make sure there's nothing leaking or dripping. Like you heard me say before, especially if you're at a job and you are a plumber, wipe up any extra residual water that might have fallen on the floor, because if the customer comes back and sees some little bit of water that you didn't wipe up, they may end up calling your office saying that you have a leak, and you'll have a call back when it's nothing more than just residual water. So just take a moment and just wipe up after yourself. Take just a moment and review. Like I stated in the beginning of the video, sometimes it's the right thing to go back to the basics to refresh your mind. It doesn't matter how experienced of a plumber you are, but this is directly mainly towards you homeowners and landlords and people out there. There's a lot of new traffic and new subscribers on this channel, and some people are coming on board because they want to see simple basic things like this to work on that they can do on their own time without having to spend the fee of a licensed plumber to come in. Always exercise caution by using disposable gloves when you're working on these toilets and stuff. If the shut-off valve will not turn off to your toilet, you may have to go out and turn the water off with your water meter. So always make sure you have towels and little buckets and the proper parts and stuff that are available at any of your plumbing supply stores or your big box stores and stuff. And it's always the best decision when you're replacing a fill valve, as we did, to check on the flapper, because it can be bad as well. Going to do it for this one. Thanks so much for hanging out and watching the video. Basic toilet tank maintenance. Everybody has toilets, and at one time or another, sooner or later, they're going to need to be worked on. Now, some of these newer toilets they have on the market these days are a little more complicated. That's why anytime I run across one of these, I try to take the opportunity and make up a how-to video on working on these. This is basic toilet tank maintenance and all that other good stuff. We didn't get into all of it, but the basics of what usually goes bad inside of the tank and stuff. And like you saw me, I didn't just replace the fill valve and say it's all done. We looked at that flapper, and good thing we did, because it was bad as well. So, but got any comments or questions, leave them down below, and don't forget to keep plumbing.